Hello, I'm Grace Power, and today I'm going to be demonstrating the sugar. This is myGoldSugar. It's the brand name, and I'm going to be demonstrating it on legs and how to use it on your legs. I have done some other videos on sugaring the legs, and today I want to give some really good tips on how to actually use the sugar. Because sometimes when you're first learning, it is a little tricky to work with. So I went ahead and warmed this sugar up in the microwave for 20 seconds before using it. And one of the reasons is because sometimes I don't warm it up, but I warmed it up because on the legs it does go on a lot nicer, and it doesn't hurt if your leg hair is kind of grown in long. It doesn't hurt when you're applying it, and it just goes on a little easier. You don't have to necessarily melt it. If you have really warm hands or warm skin, or maybe the room's warm, you may be better off not melting it and just starting with it kind of room temperature. This one is actually the medium soft, so you can tell it is a little bit softer as I'm using it as compared to some of like the firm sugars. And the first pass that I put on tends to be one of the hardest ones to get off because it is melted and it's soft. For whatever reason, that first pass is harder to remove, and then after you kind of work with the sugar a little bit, it gets easier and easier to remove. It kind of firms up. See how this one just comes off a little bit easier, where that first one was a little more sticky. So on my leg hair, I also let it grow in for a long time. It is, gosh, probably about half an inch long. Most of the hair is half an inch long, so it's coming out really nice. You don't have to let it grow in that long. The one benefit is that it does come out easier just because the sugar has more to grab onto. But if you have shorter hair, it'll still work. You just might have to go over the area a couple times to get all the hair. And then if you notice, like right here, I just noticed a couple hairs. You don't necessarily have to go, like put a whole big blob of sugar on. You can just take one finger and kind of wrap up that hair and flick it off. Now knees can start to be a little tricky, so I usually do a little bit smaller sections over the knee. And this part of the knee on a lot of people can be kind of dry, and the sugar just sticks to dry skin. So if you have really dry knees, you'll probably want to put a little powder on your knees before going over it. And sometimes people don't have any hair on their knees, so take a look, and if you don't have any hair right on that spot, don't even bother going over it, because it's just likely that the sugar will get stuck. I've let my hair grow in very, very long, and so it's great, perfect for removing. The longer the hair is, usually the easier it is to remove when it comes to the legs. If it's too long, like if you're doing a guy's back or something and the hair is too long, it's better to trim it up a little bit. So there is kind of an ideal length. This hair is about ½ an inch long, and which is really long for women's leg hair, but it works. You'll see it, the sugar pulls it out really well at this length. So I'm using the medium soft consistency of sugar, and I did heat up this jar. It just goes right in the microwave, and I just warmed it up for 20 seconds before using it. And as I'm putting it on here, I'm keeping the sugar on my fingertips and not really using any pressure to apply it. And that's one benefit of warming it up beforehand. You really don't have to put any pressure on because it's already melted, and you can just let it just basically drop onto the skin as you're putting it on. So I'm just letting this sit a little bit longer than I normally would because it is kind of warm, and just even a few extra seconds will let it cool down a little bit. So now I'm ready to flick it. You just kind of come to the very end and put a little pressure, drop your hand flat against the skin and flick, which it didn't come. So I'm going to grab a little more sugar, drop, and now flick. Drop, flick, drop, flick. Alright, and there's a little bit of sugar stuff up here. You always want to kind of clean up all the little sugar bits because they will kind of get in the way if you don't.